Hi, everyone, and welcome to Managing Your Relationship with Your Recruiter. This is one of our lunchtime webinar series for the Career Hub for PAT Business School. Today, we're delighted to have Matthew O'Donnell from Oliver James, if I can get that right, because I've called it Oliver John a couple of times lately, Oliver James Recruitment. Matthew has been, I suppose, a good person for me to reach out to in relation to getting some information on best ways of approaching jobs and that from with a recruitment perspective. And I think that's why I think he'll be a good information source to you, any of you looking for jobs. I think it's really important managing your relationships with your recruiter. And when you stop looking for a job, it doesn't mean that you turn off any communication for a recruiter or knock them off your LinkedIn, because there could be a time that you'll need them in the future and you don't want to make them to remember you as the person that was really annoying or somebody that they really disliked dealing with. So always keep a good relationship there. And if you ever have anything for them, find in general, you guys, Matthew, tend to like getting a bit of feedback or getting a bit of information or a recommendation just for somebody or etc. So manage that relationship well. And I think Matthew's just coming on board with some hints and tips. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass you over to Matthew.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, guys, my name is Matthew. I'm originally from Sligo. The accent never was really there, so I get told I've kind of lost it, but I've been here for nearly 8 years now at this point. Been in recruitment for close to 3 years, and approaching my year and a half with Oliver James right now. So I'll get started. I suppose just say that I think Jackie mentioned already, I'm quite open. If anyone does have questions, I can't actually see anyone, so Jackie is going to be my right hand here. So if anyone does have a question, feel free to pop it over to her, and I'm happy to answer it throughout the webinar. And also, if you have questions at the end, I'll do a Q&A. Please feel free. No question is silly. When I started in recruitment, I didn't know anything about it either. So please feel free. Any question at all. All right. So I suppose, as I said, what is a recruiter? I think sometimes people get confused between recruiters, talent acquisition, and then HR. So HR are going to be based within the business. They can often handle a lot of the recruitment. It's all internal. So it's people, applying to a role, then they screen CVs. Talent acquisition is a little bit different. They are completely based within one company, and they tend to sometimes reach out to people, but they also kind of are usually in place just for recruitment to kind of help HR because they've a million other things to do. And then a recruiter from an agency perspective, like myself, who works in Oliver James, we are essentially brought on by a client, in this case, like let's say a company, and we're given the task to find the best person for the job. So breaking it down really, really simple, this entire webinar will be completely based on a candidate experience, but just to split it up at the beginning, why would a client use a recruiter? Well, first of all, we're going to meet with them. We're going to understand their expectations and manage those. So you might always hear those things on the job spec that's put up. It'll say 7 years experience. It'll say this, this, this. You need to have A, B, and C, and we're having at this price point. It's my job to be quite realistic with a client at that point and just be like, look, I can get you A, B, and C. I don't know about D, and I think I'll work with you on this. So it's really a partnership, and that's how we like to look at it. We want to be an extension of the brand rather than just someone who's going to fill a job. So we tend to have good relationships with these particular companies, and we would refer to them as our clients. Market analysis, that's just giving them an overview of the market, streamline the process, and that's the proactive approach as well. Most companies, in every single way that they do anything, will be quite proactive, usually. All right. And recruiting sometimes is an area that they don't do that. So they'll put up a job ad and they go, right, let me get CVs in. It tends to not always work. And on average, you'll get a better candidate through an agency. That's not always the case. The perfect person could just be looking at the same time and they might send the CV in. But sometimes you can run into the problem that HR or talent acquisition have to skim through 100 CVs. And sometimes a great CV can just get lost in there. All right. So what do we do for the actual candidate? Very similar. We understand, we manage their expectations, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail about how we do that. I think really, really important is we answer your questions. Okay, so you might have a non-negotiable. All right, you might need to work from home 3 days a week because of some commitment or something like that. Travel might not be possible to the office. You might be leaving a really small team and you want to join a much bigger team. These are things you can find out through myself on that very first call, or about any company. I can tell you these little things that are important to you. I can give you support as well. I think a job process is quite lonely sometimes, without a recruiter, because, and I'm probably biased there, but um, it is a little bit because you can have, a really good friend group that you're really, really close with, but they might do completely different things to yourself. And you mightn't be able to relate with them on that level in depth. You also can't talk to your colleagues, maybe if you're leaving a job. And, if you have a family, again, what's their level of grasp of what you're actually doing, and can you have an in-depth conversation about it? Also, with any candidate that goes through myself, we do interview preparation. I can go through that a little bit later as well, but I want you to be supported, feel like you're ready for this interview, and also someone to have your back, throughout the process. And then feedback as well. One thing the candidates really do find when they're going direct is they might never ever hear back. So again, someone like myself working on behalf of the client, but representing you, there is an onus on me to always get feedback. Now, I will be 100% honest. No recruiter is perfect at that, just because the level of jobs and the amount of CVs you might go through. But it's definitely something that we pride ourselves at Oliver James, and definitely something I try and do better every single day. Always, even if it's a no, why is it a no? Look, this is some advice I have, and to pass that on, because at the end of the day, a no is a no. That's fine, but why? And just building that up. So kind of just gives you a little bit more clarity on the whole recruitment process. Um, so in Oliver James, we specialize in one, maybe two areas, and we will call these functions. So for myself, I'm part of the finance team. This is built up of accounting, finance, risk, and compliance as well. And I would sit with another 4 people on my team, and we would all do the same thing, but we'd all work with different clients. And as a result of that, we don't really tend to branch out of those areas. So we kind of adopt the motto, we're about an inch wide, but we're a mile deep in terms of our knowledge of those areas. So the idea behind that is that we would become really, really well equipped to answer any question, whether it be a client or a candidate, and we can advise them. And I can let you know, if you're looking at this job, okay, I know that they have a similar project coming up within this company at the start of 2025. Would you like me to keep that in your inbox and keep you on a short list for it? People are quite well receptive to that. So it's give them that analysis, real-time updates, advice as well. I might speak to someone and they might be saying, look, the company's kind of winding down. We might be facing redundancies. I'm kind of getting ahead of the curve. What do you think? And they might lay out some expectations, and I might say, well, look, I don't think the role really is going to be there at this time of year for yourself. If it was quite a senior position, there's certain times you can look in the year. Same if you're in accounting and part of, you know, just qualified, you'll usually get a pay increase at that time, significant. But at the same time, is someone going to be looking around the March, February time when their bonus is going to be paid out at the end of March? Probably not, because they want that bonus, and that's fair. So those little things, we just understand the market probably a little bit more in depth. We're talking to people each day, so someone can work at quite a senior position, but they know how they do things within their own company. They might not know what the market's saying. So that's just give you a little of an overview of my own area: accounting, finance, risk, and compliance. Very rarely would I branch outside of that. So first thing that happens in every single recruitment journey is a qualification call. So a qualification call, to break it down, is the first time you're going to speak to a recruiter and they are going to essentially qualify candidate, what you're looking for, your expectations, things like that. And this is fundamentally probably the foundation of everything and your relationship with the recruiter. It is made in this one call. There's multiple ways you can get this call, right? So someone can reach out to you via an email on LinkedIn. I'm sure you've received some in your time. Sometimes you could have spoken to one of their colleagues, or you could be based in the system because you sent in a CV. Or sometimes someone might have referred you, and it's a bit of a surprise to get a call, but someone passed on your number and said you might be of interest in this. So what we're looking for and what I'm looking for, probably exactly within that qualification call, is 5 things. All right. So expectations is one of the most important things. It's me understanding what you actually want. All right. So are you looking for an increase in salary? All right. Are you looking for more time working from home? Are you really interested in this particular type of work and maybe it's not available within your own organization? Maybe you're looking for promotion. Maybe you're just looking to be part of a big brand. That's your expectations. I will always push back sometimes on people's expectations, if they're unrealistic. You might speak to someone and they're, again, you do it in a really nice way. You might be like, look, that's well above market rate. Is there anything else that's important to you? Or some people might go, look, I'm only interested in remote roles. Like that's fantastic if you can get one of those. There's just very few nowadays. It's they're just challenging. All right. So it's just about understanding what's going to work for that person. That first bullet point there will be the foundation of my calls with that person for maybe years to come. I might realize something in that it's not going to work, so I'll only look for clients or jobs that will suit that. Genuine interest. Do they sound excited? I've said this to people before and they think, oh, like maybe I'm just a bit more reserved. That being reserved is fine. It's just, do they have genuine interest? Are they just giving me a yes to get me off the phone? Are they, after chatting to me, thinking, I just don't want to say no? That's okay. You can say no to a recruiter. We're more than happy to take a no, so don't worry. But we're looking for genuine interest as well in the actual move and also in roles. Skills and experience kind of speaks for itself. Do you match what they actually need? I'm not beholden to that. If a job says 5 years experience, almost most good recruiters will look at someone with 3 years experience. It's completely dependent on the role of the client. If I know that they're not going to look at that CV, they're very strict, I probably won't do it, and I'll let you know straight away, this is why. But most of my clients would listen to me. So if I'm putting the CV on their desk, it's for a reason. Culture fit. Naturally enough, does a person fit in with the actual culture of the company? Culture is a big buzzword nowadays, but if it's going to be a high intensity environment, is that right for this person if they're just kind of beginning their career or they're making a move into this area? Other little things as well, are they just going to get on? I have one client and I can almost say for definite when I call someone that I know that they're going to get the job. That's just because I've worked with them a lot and I know the type of people that they hire, and there's no egos in that business. So I would never send someone that I think is going to be kind of outspoken, maybe in a little bit of a negative way in an interview. They want people who, to put it for lack of a better word, they just want people who are sound, who can do the job and be a high performer, but the relationship there is the most important thing. And then probably the biggest thing, and this is more advice, and I thoroughly believe that this goes both ways, is trust and commitment. We have to establish that together, okay? So, and we can get to it later on, but I've had bad experiences with recruiters on the other side as well. There are a lot of agencies, so finding the one that works for you mightn't work for someone else, but also you just want to know, can you trust them and can you commit to them? And we're looking for the exact same thing. If I see red flags throughout a process, I have pulled people from processes because I've talked to the manager and I've said, look, this is A, B, and C, this has happened. Obviously, I'm representing this candidate, but at the end of the day, I don't know if I feel comfortable knowing that they'd even show up for the second interview, or if they'd reschedule again. I just don't know if I feel comfortable doing it. And clients love that because they get an honest, everyone just loves honesty in the end of the day. So that's a big thing, trust and commitment. But as I said, it goes both ways. You need your recruiter to be, committed to you, and also you need to trust them as well at the same time. In terms of building trust, I broke this down into three real things, and that's transparency on both sides. Once again, transparency, to put it in the best way, is look at it as your recruiter is wanting the best for you. We want you to get the job. Yes, we can represent other candidates. I can have a favorite candidate that doesn't ever kind of change anything. I might just get on with someone a little bit better. But all I ask for in my processes, and I've been very fortunate with a lot of them. I've had ones that didn't work out as well, but the transparency. And usually if you're in recruitment for longer than 2 years, you can get really, really good at that. You can kind of understand. And most people will always be transparent with you again. But it's as the process goes on, is everything transparent? And I get reservations around that as well. Do I tell them the reason I'm actually leaving? Like, am I actually getting kind of pushed out of the company rather than leaving? Tell me that. It's not going to make me kind of change my opinion. It's just added information. Because then we know that we can't go for that person for a reference, or I don't want to find out, a month later that, you had obviously applied to a role directly or something like that. So it's just being open and honest, transparency, honesty. Your word is your word. I'm very, I guess, firm on this, but at the same time, it goes both ways. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I will do it to my best of my abilities. Again, no one's perfect, and just because someone doesn't do something, I'm never going to close the thing and never work with them again. There's obviously leeway both sides, but just essentially, it's a good way to think about it in the workspace as well. Look, your word is your word. Without that, it's quite hard to kind of progress in your career. So people just want someone who's, if you can't do something, that's fine, that's no worries. But you know, have you told me that? Essentially, is what I'd be looking for there, and both ways. Again, and commitment. As I said in the last one, if I had a candidate, and it has happened, it happened with one of my first roles I did within Oliver James, and funny enough, with my best client now, and I had a guy who, and probably enough, like I was new enough as well, but he probably just didn't respect me and the profession. And we got on well. And he cancelled interview preparation, which I have to do with because I have to screen someone another way, before they go into the interview. I need to make sure that they're actually going to show up. So it's almost like I always quite informal with them, but it's almost a mini interview. Can you be here on this time and be presentable and speak? So that's a big thing. If someone frequently cancels or doesn't show up, we'd make a quick note of it. You might get a second chance depending on the situation. Third chance, probably not. And then it's on the system for us that it won't say anything bad. It'll just say maybe cancelled a few times, never agreed to do this, hasn't called me back since the third interview or the final interview. Little things like that, and both ways as well. If I was canceling or if I was constantly late for things and not showing you respect, I'd expect the exact same thing. So at the end of the day, all I want, and hopefully a candidate wants it as well, is that we can just build a little bit of trust, and that can naturally kind of be proven over time. It's not going to be built in one call, so it's multiple calls. A lot of candidates that I placed this year are people that I spoke to last year, and I just stay kind of informed with them. The perfect thing kind of comes up, and then we look together, and they trust me. All right, and that's the best things, and the best relationships you can have. So I would just, try and do that. You're not going to have every single recruiter that you speak to and going to love every single one of them, and you're not going to just speak usually to just one recruiter. So just build a little bit of trust, and that that they have your back and that they want the best for you. And that's all I would say on that. And
Matthew, I have two questions in for you.
go for
So
it.
let's start. Why are remote roles in decline, and where is the best for those roles? who value this work benefit? Where's the best places to go for them, I guess? Mhm.
Okay, so remote roles, probably two ways to look at it. I can speak a bit on maybe my area of the business. Within tech, it's a little bit more um, doable within a contracting job. So first of all, I'm a dual desk recruiter. So that means that I work permanent positions and I also work contract positions. Most people, when they think of contract, if they haven't approached it, will just think, oh, it's a 6 month contract. Okay. That's a little bit different. There also can be daily rate contracts. So you're paid daily. You usually get paid at the end of the month anyway. You usually get paid a little bit more, but you're not on the books of the business. Rather, you work under Oliver James and we pay you and the business pays us. It's financially, it's usually a little bit better for the candidate because they don't have to worry about pension or any of those things. And they don't, if they're not focused on those things. And it also works on a project base. So if you're just someone who likes to do projects, that's the thing for you. Within tech, yeah, you can get remote roles. They have declined again. Why they've declined, a couple of reasons is they, after COVID, I think naturally people were, you know, quite enjoying working from home. Businesses saw a massive decline in performance. Again, that doesn't apply to everyone. Some people work better at home, but they did see a massive dip. You also had new people joining businesses who were trained virtually. Doesn't really work. That's one thing I would probably agree with them definitely on. Virtually training someone, it's not always the best. It's also good to be in the office. You get to see people. I've spoken to people who joined a business during COVID, maybe left after a year and maybe like 2023. They never met anyone they worked with. So they never felt any relationship. They never felt any commitment to a business. Companies have also gotten pressure from the director level all the way. Like it's not just, let's say in risk, you have your CRO. He's not even really making that decision. It's probably a director, probably above of him, or maybe even the CEO that's saying, we have an office, let's use it. Let's get people back in the office. Everything kind of goes in waves in life. So things kind of change. This is just a reaction to that. Companies just want people back in the office more. If you were to go for a remote role within finance and risk and compliance, the best and only real place that I could say is crypto. I don't tend to work in that area because um, it's a little bit maybe uncertain, and there's just a lot like they're offering fantastic salaries, remote opportunities, so they don't really need a recruiter. They'll get the applicants. Will they get the best is probably up for debate, but that probably be the main reason. But I do have one or two clients that can be flexible based on the team. um, but that's probably just being honest, it just comes from the top down. They want people back in the office. They feel like performance dipped, performance is back, they have an office, those kind of reasons.
And the second question then is on risk and compliance roles. Do you have any
Hmm.
that are generally policy regulatory based? And can one who is new to this sector be but qualified maybe expect much? I suppose that's in the way of earnings or that.
It's super dependent on the role, the company. If someone's, again, it's quite tough sometimes for a recruiter, and this is where I'll always be honest with people. If someone is coming to me for a job or for a job to be filled, they probably have a certain level of expectations in the candidate that they're going to receive. All right. So I work with anyone, but at the same time, I'm always honest with people. Is coming brand new into a role, is it realistic to go through a recruiter? Not always, and recruiters won't always tell you that. It's just sometimes not. If there's a good relationship there with the hiring manager, and we can kind of, you know, pitch you in a certain way that, this is someone brand new within the business, and someone that you can really build up, someone who's just looking for a chance, maybe. But more often than not, if someone is coming to me, it's to do with someone, a specific skill set that they're not finding. So it's usually someone maybe even from a direct competitor. So entering the market's really hard. It's one of those kind of things you'll always see in a job spec. How can I have 3 years experience when no one will hire me? It's quite hard. The advice I would give is look at your bigger organizations, or smaller or very small kind of startup organizations. Anything in the middle is going to be quite tight. Big organizations can take a chance. Smaller organizations, the exact same. They can take a chance, and they might bring someone in. So I would say just connect with, like, you can look up compliance on your LinkedIn, connect with people, and don't feel like the necessary to message all of them, but just connect with them, stay on board. If you see something interesting in the post, maybe pop them a message. Again, don't berate people with this. That won't go well. But if you just pop a message, maybe once every couple of months, once every like 3 or 4 months, maybe you start opening doors for yourself. And then when you see something, maybe messaging the hiring manager directly, or maybe messaging me and being like, look, is there any kind of advice you give? And I'm happy to give advice, around CVs and how all those things. I think you guys actually had a webinar on CVs already, so you're probably firmed up there. But just little things like that. There are roles, but it's just a little bit harder to break in, if that makes sense.
The
I
other
hope I
thing
answered you. Yeah.
you did, but the other thing just to say to people is, strange enough, in my position, I do tend to get a few people that are maybe in a startup company or maybe somewhere that maybe they're a graduate of the program themselves and they know their company are hiring, and maybe there's somebody,
Mm,
one of their managers liked what came out of one of our courses. That has actually happened as late as today. And they
hmm
have reached out to me directly and said, hey, we're going hiring in this area. Have you got anybody you can put forward? And I suppose I'm kind of jumping on Matthew's ground there as a bit of a recruiter in a way, but it's just
Yeah.
because the company has seen the benefit, and I know the person that asked that question has done the higher diploma in regulatory compliance, and it's another person within that grouping who has come out with a nice qualification. The manager is really happy with what he's been able to add to the team, so he's come back to us and said, hey, have you anybody else that has done this qualification that's looking for something in
Mm,
this area? And that's when it comes to my job to start ringing the guys that I know who are looking for work and saying, hey, I've got this. Are you interested in talking to me? So any of you that are looking in that area, please reach out to me. I actually have 2 or 3 roles on my desk in the last week. January seems to be a good time. So reach out to me and I will put you forward. We're also doing the career guidance thing with Hilt, where whatever part of the interview process that you're stuck with, they'll give you a 30-minute coaching on. And the last question that's just come in here as I was talking is, DORA tech compliance, is that a big area to get into at the moment?
massive, huge. So within risk, I would very rarely, if I was speaking to a very senior person, would rarely end a call without speaking about DORA in some way. So it is an area that I haven't actually placed within yet in terms of someone directly looking for that, but it's always something massive, and it's something we forecasted last year. We knew this was coming up, so we have implemented our cybersecurity team. They sit in a different function, but it's IT risk essentially. They've had really good lately, and people have needed it for projects, big kind of initiatives in 2025 or at the end of this year. Massive. I did a roundtable last year with Jack Allen, one of our senior consultants as well, and that came up again. We were sitting with CROs and we were chatting about it, and they were just getting, it's on the tip of everyone's tongue. So they always talk about it. I haven't had a position that was required that this has come in, but I've had conversations, and I think it's going to even be bigger next year, and that's where we're kind of starting to see it. It's starting to trickle down naturally. People kind of planned for it. Now they've kind of maybe gotten their budget for it, and now next year it'll kick off. But definitely, it's probably the biggest thing that we probably talk about in terms of one specific job or job function. It's probably the hottest topic. Nothing else kind of comes close to that.
Perfect. I think we're up to
Yeah.
date.
All right. Perfect. Um, Communication. I think me and Jackie even talked about this, and I'll get on to the bubbles in a second. But like, is a recruiter your friend? And it's a little bit of a tricky one. All right, definitely. I'd always like to be your friend. I can get on with people. Look, it is going to be professional in a certain way in terms of, yeah, but like most of my relationships, whether it be with a client or even be with a candidate, a lot of the time, first 5, 6 minutes, we can just talk about life. That's how I like to do it. I like to build a relationship. Again, going back to that trust and kind of commitment thing, I actually care about the person, and that's one of our staples, and it's my approach. But it is Oliver James who really made that foundation in me. It's always people first. So if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job right. However, I would also say, as a caveat to that, realize that it is still in a way professional setting. All right. So as much as the crack you could be having with a recruiter, you do have to think, okay, there's probably a line there. All right. In terms of maybe some information that you would say. But brings on to the next one. How honest should I be? I always say, feel free to be as honest as you want with me. I'll be completely and utterly honest with you. And I hope for it in the reciprocated. But that's one that you can. It's case by case. All right, is your recruiter friend, and how honest you should be is realistically it's case by case. You're gonna have some, like I have some people who I know their dog's name, I know their partner's name, I know their mom's name. I know what they're doing for the next 2 weekends. I know that they have a trip planned to South America next year, and I know everything about them. We've just got on, and I've ended up placing that person, and we still stay in contact. Like every couple of weeks, or every couple of months, we'll pop each other a message, or they'll give me a call. They might be like, "Hey, saw this. I have this friend," but it's also just to have the chats. So that person probably won't go as far to say a great friend, but definitely a really good acquaintance. And then I have other people who I've placed who were nice, don't really friends. That's okay either. Do you know? So it's a case by case. Don't feel like you need to, you know, relate in every single way, but most good recruiters will try and at least relate to you on certain things and find stuff that you're interested in, because at the end of the day, like if I was making someone process a little bit happier, or a little bit more enjoyable is probably a better word. It doesn't take that much more effort for me to do it. So I would say the same thing. Also, I would have people that I was good mates with, and they reach back out, and I'm naturally I'm a little bit biased because I really want to work with that person. I really want to find them something. So I'll go the extra mile. So it's a case by case basis. That's what I would say. How honest should I be? I would say just be clear, concise, everything like that, and respect both sides. Again, this goes for both for a recruiter as well. They should be honest with you. You know, we'd ask for honesty in the back as well. Should I disclose that I'm in other processes? Yes, you should. I can understand maybe the hesitancy when I was first coming into recruitment. Like, why do you need to know that? Well, I have a long list of clients, and if we're working together, I want to make sure that if I'm on a call, um, and I'm chatting to that client, and I go, I'm never going to mention your name until you've confirmed that you are happy to go to that company. But if I'm having a call and they're like, look, I'm looking for this person in operational risk, about, maybe a year, 2 years experience, maybe coming from a banking background, that'd be fantastic. Do you have anyone in mind? Oh, look, I have this person. I can give you a little quick overview of their skill set. This is what they did. This is where they were. Real good. Like, this is why they're looking. Would you be interested in meeting with them? And they say, yeah. And then I go back to this person. And if it happened in between our conversations, that's fine. But if I go back and this person's like, no, I already interviewed with them last month, it's just kind of, it's the whole networking part of it then just doesn't really work effectively. So the best people that I've worked with have just, they disclose the process that they're in with me, and they go, this is where I am. Also, it can happen if I go, are you interested in this role? They go, yeah, fantastic. And then I find out that they've applied for the role or applied to the company 6 months ago. I'd worried that the role's been open 6 months, but maybe they applied for a different role. I can't represent them in that process then. And it's unfortunate. It's just kind of wasting people's time. But I'd also always say as well, I'd always let people know of other roles that I have as well that are similar. So that one's just more advice. You'll just get more out of it if people understand where you're at. We know, okay, these are the companies you've applied to. These are the ones that recruiters have put you into. I'm going to avoid all of that. All right, I'm going to focus on these other clients, and maybe we can find you something here. I've good connections. This is my plan. Here, we're going to go about this. Also, I suppose this is one big one, and this is just advice. Again, you might get a recruiter to do this, and I completely understand it. If I wasn't a recruiter, I'd be like, who are you? Why are you reaching out to me on an email? And why are you asking for my number? I don't know you. And this could have been a mass investment that don't work. They don't. Emails need to be a lot more specific on why, this is a role I have. I came across your profile. I was really interested in it. And someone might say, just send me the job spec. From a point of view, from a recruiter, they'll probably bounce back on you and that go, look, I have 5 minutes if you want to have a chat about it. It'll take more than 5 minutes, but I have 5 minutes at the end of the day. If you're busy right now, I understand we can find some other time, maybe during the week or during lunch, sometime that works for us both. If someone came back again and said, just send me the job spec, immediately that person's just, unless there's a really good reason, like unless it's audit season within the Big Four, and maybe I already spoke to that person and I will send the job spec. But for a first interaction, if someone just said that to me, I wouldn't. I'd probably reply, or maybe I mightn't even if I'm speaking to a lot of people. The main reason for that is you're kind of taking away anything that we have on the job. We have to sometimes we have to hold the job in terms of we can't disclose everything just over an email. We can't just send out a job spec. If we did, we wouldn't be doing our job correctly. All right, you got to be speaking to the person. I've no idea if you're right for the role. I'm on LinkedIn. It looks like you have the experience to qualify to being right for the role, but maybe it's not right for you. There's a million different things, and then someone might say, "No, it's not for me." And that's fine, and then you might reach out to them and go, "Look, this is something different." This, and they will go, "No, send me the job spec." It just doesn't work. It takes more time than anything. Now, I appreciate it goes both ways. Again, if someone's really busy and it's audit season or something like that, you mightn't have time, but we'll make time. The only reason I would say that is, again, it's building trust and the relationship. If we don't have 10 minutes to talk about a potential job move or a new opportunity, is there a point? And I get it. People can get emails from multiple people and recruiters. So finding out which ones to reply to and which ones not to is challenging. So maybe just getting the job spec. But me just sending over a blank job spec it's boring. I talk to you about the actual team. I don't get to talk to you about anything in business or why the role's open. Those are really important things, and goes back to your expectations. So I just wouldn't do it. And then I suppose on my approach, it's people first, clear and concise, respect. I don't ever want it to feel transactional. So this is probably the nice thing. I like to think I've done it anyway. I don't ever want people to feel like this is just a transaction that we're having, or this is just I'm just in it to push anyone into this job. I genuinely really do kind of hope that every person I place is really going to enjoy the job. And I do, in monthly check-ins, maybe like a week check-in when they've started, then a monthly check-in, then like maybe a bi-monthly for the first couple of months, and then after that, unless they want to, I probably will leave them alone at that point if they're sick of me. But it's really just to see if they're good. How are they feeling? I'm genuinely happy that they're enjoying it. And I would say I can't think of one person that I've placed during my time at Oliver James that I haven't spoken to in the last 6 months. Just out of reaching out and seeing how they're getting on, or even reaching out this week. Happy Christmas. How are you getting on? Has anything changed? No, you're still happy. Fantastic. Look, happy Christmas. And then don't be afraid to ask tough questions. Don't be afraid to ask tough questions to a recruiter as well. Why is the role open? What's the team culture like? Why if someone left, why did they leave? And yeah, like how can I guarantee this? What's the manager style like? Things like that. And I'm going to ask tough questions as well. And this will usually be during the interview process. what do you think is the most challenging thing about this job? Gets people thinking. So that's just my approach. There's no right, wrong way to do it. That's just the way I like to do it. So I don't know.
I
Is
have
there?
two more questions for you,
Yeah,
Matthew.
sorry. I was thinking.
So the first
Yeah.
one, we're just wondering, what is your view on remuneration packages not being disclosed at the advertising stage or early in the process?
That's fair. I think there's two ways to look at it. One, a recruiter can be given a budget, but that isn't the actual budget for everyone. And it's a horrible thing to say, but it's not the budget if someone's coming from a direct competitor and they're exceptional. Same way, if someone's very junior, less confident recruiters might find that negotiation quite tough. Comfortable enough now that on in-mails I would send out, I tend to not publicize a salary for two reasons. Like if I'm sending an in-mail, I'll 99% of the time put a salary range just so I'm not wasting people's time. If it's a particular position where I'm putting it up online, I'll avoid that because it's very easy to understand what um, company it might be. So if I know a particular insurance company is hiring for a very specific job, and not many other insurance companies are doing that, and I do have to say in the body of the email or the body of the text, it's a insurance company. Companies will ask us probably not to do that, just to share an exact salary. Now, when I'm on a call with someone, I'll tell them straight up, this is a salary range for the role. I'll tell them the range, and I'll say, look, this is the person that can get this range, because it's based on the value that they bring as well. But it's a conversation. I think it's really fair. I think it's something that we've even adopted a little bit more. We still can do better. I think it's recruitment agencies are a little bit behind on it, if I'm honest. It's something that my colleague Jack more so, he kind of brought me into it. Is just it's open and transparency, and I guess it comes back to my point of everyone being open and transparent. But there are some situations where you just would be asked not to advertise a salary. I've no problem disclosing that. Also, some people will do it just because they don't want other agencies to work on roles. That's the internal politics of agencies, and I might get onto that in our next slide. But if I if I have a message up and then another agency is looking at it, and now they know exactly every piece of information, they can just work the role. Now get they might not even be working on their PSL of the company, but they can cover people off and they can do everything to the role, and then it becomes trickier and trickier. So that's another reason for it. But yeah, I guess I hope I answered your question there. I think it could be definitely done better, and I would be guilty sometimes of that as well. But it is something we're definitely trying to improve on.
So the next, I suppose, question that came in, and it's probably difficult to get this down right, but anyway, if you
Mm,
know you were saying about the job spec, okay?
mm.
So if you contact me and I don't know whether I'm interested in the role or not, and I don't want to waste your time and my time, is there a way to ask for kind of a broad job
Oh
spec
yeah,
without necessarily to be seen to be batting away the recruiter, if that makes sense?
yeah, and maybe I can word that a little bit better as well on my part. If someone's just asking for a brief overview, that's fine. It's like, oh, Matthew, what is this? Like, can you give me an understanding of it? My eh, problem might be is if someone's like asking me a question, then replying, asking a question. Can you send me the job specs? If you send, like everyone's done it in the past, send a job spec. Not for me. Like, I don't know why it's not for you. If I type back why it's not for you, not for me, or some other reason. I don't know anything about that candidate, so I can't really ever go back to them with anything. So that's the only thing I would say in terms of, you know, useful for your time, even to make a connection. But if someone reaches out to you and you're like, I'm not even looking for a move, and this person's reached out to me, can you give me a little bit of an overview of it? That's what I would just say. Hi Matthew, Appreciate you reaching out. Do you mind just giving me a quick synopsis of the role, very, very quickly? And I'm happy to have a call if it's kind of hitting my expectations. But I guess the way, whether right or wrongly, because we speak with so many people, it's the person that probably you chat to that you're going to build a relationship with. I'm not going to remember the person that said, "Can I have a synopsis of it?" No, I don't. That's not for me. I'll respect that person because they don't want to waste my time. But at the same time, we can find out very, very quickly. And so more often than not, a call is sometimes quicker. Now, I 100% get it if someone's busy, it's busy time of the year. But again, if it's about something that it sounds even remotely interesting, is it worth your consideration? That's something for you to decide. But that's just my advice more than anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that the questions?
That's it. Yeah, that's the
That's
two.
it. Perfect. And navigating challenges. So I'd be really, really interested, and you guys have given me some already, and I'd be really, really keen to maybe dive into some more if you guys have some. But these are just some challenges that I've just picked out. And these are more so on navigating the relationship with the recruiter who maybe isn't doing their job correctly, or maybe you've made a mistake, or maybe they've made a mistake, and it's just overcoming a challenge, right? So 2 recruiters have submitted me for the same job. What should I do? It's like the worst nightmare for every single person involved, including the company as well. So it's happened. Thankfully, I wouldn't say thankfully, I just would never do this. It's a waste of everyone's time. But what some people do is more of a cowboy thing to do and bring it back to the old days of recruitment. It wasn't around for them, but this is apparently how it used to go. So they'll ring everyone in their list. They'll probably very rarely give you a lot of information as well. They probably know the bare minimum. And then which not always the case, like they might know the manager and stuff like that, but they'll box you off for the role. They have your CV and they'll send it in, or they'll shout maybe like 10 names on the call with you. You're not going to remember all 10, and they'll say, yeah, they got verbal acceptance. What I always say to everyone is, and you'll if any of you guys are working with me in the future, my messages are very, after our call you'll get the job spec, you get everything, and you'll see, I need 2 things from yourself: an up-to-date CV, whenever you can have that, and one is right to represent. Recently enough, it happened, someone tried to do it. Again, just I always kind of cover myself. It's happened before. I know one guy, it was for a particular position. I ended up finding him something else, but he hadn't heard back from a job that I have an active interviews for, and he would have gotten the job, and he hadn't heard back for about 3 weeks, and rang the recruiter, nothing. The guy just sent in his email, and then what happens is HR do not want to get involved. They don't want to have a problem, so you can be the one that loses out there. So what I would say is, just make sure that you can control where your CV is. Excuse me. But what can you do in this situation? Who were you speaking to first about the role? Who did you give reference? And then just go with that. Just follow the process and just be a little more careful the next time. It's not always the candidate's fault. There are a lot of, not well, I won't say a lot. A lot of recruiters are quite good, but there are some that would do this, and I come across them all the time in the market, and it's just unfortunate. So you just, again, this is the trust and commitment side of it. My earlier talking points. That's how you kind of get away from that. You know that you trust someone. A career recruit. This one kind of just blends into the point I just said there. Set me in for a job 2 weeks ago. I've heard nothing. That can be a couple of reasons, right? One, the recruiter can be working the role. Fantastic. Your CV's there. Due to manual leave or due to the HR process, your CV hasn't been reviewed. I think Jackie might be even able to tell you, not every company has a great recruitment process in terms of internally. So CVs just get missed, things don't get done. I wouldn't overly panic. But having said that, and I've been guilty of it during my career, you should get an update. Whether it's I usually call someone, even if I don't have an update on a Friday, I'll be like, me again, it's coming. I should have an update in the next day or two. If not, I'm going to give you a call anyway. It takes 2 seconds of my time. So, what I like
There's
to do with
two
anyone,
aspects to that, Matthew. Oh God, it's about 6 years ago. I was going for one of my
yeah,
first jobs in compliance, and this poor recruiter, he put me forward for something, and he was convinced I was like a dead cert in the door. I'd say it was 6 weeks. I think it was like that weekly call. He's like, "Ah, I haven't heard back from them yet." So by the time he did hear back, I was like, I am really not interested anymore because
hmm
just gone on so much. It kind of would turn you off the company because you don't see any other development within the company. Like they brought me in for an interview,
hmm
told me something was coming for me and they would get a constructive package together, but took them 6 weeks to pull that package.
and that has happened. The longest I ever had was 2.5 weeks for an offer. Now, kindly, the hiring manager after 2 weeks reached out to the candidate, because I was like, look, I can keep managing this, but at some point it has to be done. I've been told it's going to be a couple of days for 2.5 weeks. So there's a couple of ways with that. Jackie's dead right. It can turn people off it as well. It can turn people off the company if they are slow. What I would also say is this again comes back to the trust and commitment aspect. I know I'm probably hamping on about that, but that's where all this comes. Do you trust the person? Give them a call, give them an email. If they don't respond to you on either of those for another couple of days, they've broken your trust. All right. Yes, they could be out. They could be annual leave. There could be any reason. Same way with the candidate. If something happens, I'll give the benefit of the doubt once, maybe twice, if something has seriously actually happened outside of their control, or even little things that just can take an effect on someone's life. We're all human, but that would be a red flag in my mind. However, it has happened, and then the person ends up taking the job. The hiring manager was taking too long. It was a busy part of the season. It can happen. So just don't be disheartened that you haven't done that. It can be a number of reasons. But Jackie's dead right. If it goes on 6 weeks, it's not going great, and it might give you a warning sign about that company as well. Um, I had a really tough interview, and I think it put me off the job. What should I do? I would define tough first of all. So, was tough that it was challenging, or was it tough that it was horrible, like you hated it? If it was challenging, maybe think back when I'm on my first call. I might go, "You did say your job's very easy right now. You were seeking a challenge. Do you think that this person is challenging maybe you, and maybe they'll make you better at your job in this new position?" Yeah. Caveat to that, was the interview just horrible? Was the person dismissive? Did they care? Those kind of things. Ugh, it's awful to hear. I get fuming. Thankfully, I don't really have many clients like that. I've had horrible, not horrible. I've had people come out and just the interview went not well, and I've talked to the client and they thought it went really well, and I'm like, you need to change your style or something, because you're kind of just pushing people away. And again, this is, feel free, like, you can talk to a recruiter about these things. Please be as honest as you want. If you didn't like it, there's no point saying you did. All right, just let me know. Maybe they said something, it kind of brushed up the wrong way and you didn't like it. Maybe I might know something about them. I'm like, oh yeah, he was tough on you today. Yeah, well, maybe, look, there could be a reason for that. It's never an excuse, but it could be an explanation, for something. So have a chat about it. Again, open and honesty. It's the best way. I can't read anyone's mind. So if you're not interested or something happened, I'll always ask people what went bad, or what was the most challenging thing, any concerns, anything like that. And if someone's not fussed about it, or they're not genuinely excited about it anymore, there's I wouldn't feel right about sending them in for another interview, even if they were kind of curious just to see out the process. There's no need. But again, I was just define, was it challenging or was it horrible? And last one, I accepted a new role, but my boss offered me a raise. What should I do? Tough one. So maybe this is what we call a counter offer in recruitment. So 85 to 90% of people will probably, it's judging by your level as well, but let's call it safe and say 80% will get a counter offer. All right. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, they don't want you to go. They they may realize their mistakes, or maybe they're desperate to keep you. You're too valuable to go. One, they're going to have to replace you. That's going to be a headache. They're going to have to go through HR. They're going to have to get the role approved. They're going to have to do a lot. Three, just the workload. You might be doing the job of two people within the role. They might need to employ two people just to get you back. So giving you a raise, that might look better on paper, but you're going to maybe still have the same problems. And that comes back to my very first call with someone. What's your expectations? What's your reason for leaving? What are you looking for? I'll always reiterate that back, because you can get blindsided, because change is naturally scary. All right. No, not many people love change. It's scary. It's exciting, but it's scary because you've no idea. So it's better to maybe stick where you are. You're comfortable. You've gotten a little bit of a raise. If you were just in it for money, is it the worst thing in the world? I probably wouldn't just work this close with someone if they had just said they're in it for money, um, because money can always be matched. There's got to be other reasons.
I was
But
going to say,
yeah,
sorry,
sorry,
years ago when I was in that position, and
yeah,
so somebody that I would consider quite wise turned to me and said, "Well, was the pay the only reason you were leaving? Because tomorrow
mm.
morning they might put more money on the table, but your day to day isn't going to change much."
And they might even promise that the day to day is going to change. In 3 months, we'll make sure that this team that we've been promising you for 2 years, we'll get it in place. Usually, I actually haven't had. I had one person do it, and honestly, the counteroffer was so good that I couldn't really do anything about it. Um, they were given more flexibility from days off and 4-day work week and stuff like that. Same matching salary. The person had been with the business a long time. It ended up falling through, and that deal didn't go through. But that's okay. That can happen every once in a while. The time when a lot of my colleagues have had it, um, that they've had counter offers and the person's decided to stay. And I'm not just saying this. 3 months, 6 months later, Jackie, you might even know, maybe even 9 months later, someone's giving you a call and going, "It's me again," and I'm like, "What's happening? Are you okay?" And nothing's changed, you know. So you look, you always should hear people out. I always do. I always tell my candidates, you know, hand like hand in your notice in person as well. Make sure that you can kind of have that reaction. You might be really close with your manager. It might be really difficult to do it because you really like them as a person and they've really helped you. But just be concrete, and good recruiter will make sure that you know this. Be concrete why you're doing things, because a counter offer at the end of the day is going to turn your head naturally. So just be kind of sure in your reasons to leave. If it is just money, then maybe it is better off. But any other reason usually will probably stay the same. And also, some people don't consider the money aspect. You know, why is it only available now? And also, if I'm getting this extra increase, what my workload probably going to have to increase, and a job that was already making you pull out your hair and you were getting sleepless nights and you weren't really getting it, is that going to just increase then? Do you know? Um,
Now, I'm going to interject slightly again, Matthew, just on two
go for it.
things. One, I know we're quite up on time for people that are looking to go back for your lunch break, from your lunch break to work. So if that's a problem for you, don't worry, this is recorded and I will be sending it out. It won't be out until Monday or Tuesday because the person that does that for me is on annual leave and I'm not able to do it. The second part then is that we have another question in, and it's just asking about, are your clients open to transferable skill sets? So they notice the job requirements on LinkedIn
hmm
are lowering compared to what you're asked to do.
Completely depends on the client. Completely depends on the role. It'd be hard for me to give a concrete answer there. Some clients, yes, some clients wouldn't. Um, again, it probably comes down to a client that I'm working really well with. There's certain clients that I work really well, and I know everyone within the business, and I've been referred and passed on, have really positive reviews. And there's other ones that I've worked really well with, but I probably don't have the relationships. Like I'm not going out for many lunches with them throughout the year, maybe a few. Um, if I can have an honest chat and I can be like, this person is class. They are just looking for something and they want to change this skill set in. Do you think that you can do it? And then it depends on their own situation, right? If they have the ability to take someone on and train them and bring them up to speed, maybe. If they don't, they won't. So probably really hard for me to give a concrete answer to that person. Um, if they have a specific situation, I could maybe do it, or maybe they can pop me a message, and we can have a call about it. But like if they're looking to get into one area, but they have transferable skills, maybe. But it'd be I'd just be wrong if I gave them a concrete answer on it's something that's so subjective, you know. Is
Perfect.
that
Thank you.
that?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of it for myself. I would welcome, I'm not even sure what time we're on. Maybe I've gone a good bit over. I am just gonna maybe so I can go back to the camera. Um, there we go. Um,
Hi,
this,
everybody.
hello, long time no see. Um, but yeah, look, if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. But completely up to yourselves.
Well, if I could just come in with one, Matthew, if I may. And Jackie,
Hmm.
thanks very much for the talk today. Found everything you said very helpful. I'll just get to the point, kind of touches on maybe a last question there about
Hmm.
transferable skills. Just wondering what kind of advice would you have for somebody who, let's say, is looking to cross sectors, if that makes sense, has kind of
Hmm.
upskilled, works in financial services, where we adopt kind of risk and compliance, so on and so forth. So, as a result of the course, actually, I was kind of brought on a tour of, let's say, some high level roles.
Hmm.
It hasn't really worked out as such, just because I suppose I don't really know, but I just kind of felt like the level that we were at with the course was kind of even way above in terms of what the skill sets of what they were offering, which kind of sounds strange, but yeah, just for somebody that's looking across the sectors,
Hmm.
what kind of advice would you kind of give for somebody who may have those kind of transferable skills, um, going forward? You know, what type
Hmm.
of role should I be looking out to kind of applying for, I suppose?
Yep. Very fair question in terms of when we get job briefs in. All right, they'll like if it's an insurance company, they want someone from insurance. If they want someone from banking, it's banking. It's investments, it's investments. They can be really kind of narrow-minded and that kind of way. Like, let's if I was to take operational risk again,
Yeah.
just because I'm just working roles on it right now, so it's just on my mind. Um, it can be challenging, you
Mm.
know, especially at a very senior level. It can be definitely even more and more challenging because they
Yeah,
see it coming out.
Matthew, I suppose to cut across you, apologies.
Mm.
The question is kind of, if you were in my shoes, what kind of approach would you take to it all? You know? Yeah,
So what I would say is purely have a conversation, I say with a recruiter, is there any businesses that would be open to someone from a different background? Is there anyone that you can leverage off relationship wise within other businesses? Possibly you know people, maybe they might not be in that area, but are they open? Are they open to having conversations? Um, I would tailor my CV to really highlight, especially at the top part, highlight transferable skills, like in terms of this is what I did on this project. Because
yes.
if you're to pick something that's similar within again operational risk or something like that, it's similar in each company, but maybe it's just different in terms of approach and actually experience in that area. So I would just go with make sure that the CV is tailored for that exact job. In an interview, if you are lucky to get that far, make the case that look, I'm not coming with that exact experience, but at the same time, I would feel like the skills would be transferable. I've done this. This is similar to this. That's probably the best way to go about it in terms of just make sure you're precise in what you're going for. Be really strategic. If you want to cross into industries, connect with people in those industries in terms of
Yes.
recruiters, in terms of people, get the name out there. And then it's all about getting the opportunity when it does arise. Then if it's at a senior level, there's going to be a few of them anyway. Just make sure your name is in the hat there. And if you have a good recruiter behind you, they can always argue the case, do you know?
Okay, Matthew, that's great. And Jackie too. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Going to go back and clock back in, as they say. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank
Dave, if
you.
you need
See
anything,
ya.
feel free to reach out to me during the week, okay?
Okay, Jackie, that sounds good too. I might come back to you. Thank you.
See you
Thank
later.
you, Matthew. Thank you, Sheki.
Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to
Bye-bye,
stop the
thanks.
recording there for now anyway.